For his thoughts on the Trump tariffs and on Canada's response, we're now joined by former Quebec Premier Philippe Couillard. Monsieur Couillard, thank you for taking the time.
Pleasure. Hello, everyone.
So back in January, before the first round of tariffs were actually delayed, you expressed concern about Canadian counter-tariffs, saying they would not sway Donald Trump the way they did the last time. Is that still the opinion you hold right now?
I think that what swayed Donald Trump the first time and will sway him again this time is not whatever we do, although it may be satisfactory to do so. It's the pressure around him within the U.S. Governors, citizens, organizations, and it's starting now with more and more. We'll say, this doesn't make any sense. We're paying for all of this. So this is going to happen. On counter-tariffs, I remain of the same opinion. You know, if we logically believe, and it's true, that Americans will pay the U.S. tariffs, whether it's businesses, consumers, then the reciprocal is true logically. If we impose tariffs, even as counter-tariffs, there are still tariffs. A tariff is a tariff is a tariff. Then we will be paying for these Canadians, consumers and businesses. But not a very smart way to respond, in my view.
So you would have rather we lean on diplomacy rather than meeting tariff for tariff?
On diplomacy, and I would say the natural tendency of the U.S. society to react when they see what effect it has on them. Now, it doesn't happen immediately. It takes time for this to percolate in the economy and people realizing what's happening to them. Because obviously, as was the case in all other episodes of tariffs that were made in the past, again, the tariffs are applied supposedly by the importing country, but this is the importing people that suffer from them, not necessarily the exporting society like us in aluminium, for example. If we have to face tariffs on aluminium is introduced in cars in the U.S., defense equipment, so these will increase in price. Same with many other sectors, in fact, all sectors. That's why previous attempts at tariffs in the States and elsewhere have always failed, and they will fail again. They will fail because of their weight. Gravity is very good law, you know, it remains true. If it's too heavy, it just crashes down. And this is what's going to happen, but not immediately. We have to be a bit patient here.
Except that, you know, in the first time Donald Trump was in the Oval Office, and when he hit Canadian steel and aluminum, the counter tariffs were able to get him to change his mind rather quickly. What's different, in your opinion, between the Trump first term and what we're seeing this time around?
Well, I think maybe contrary to this is that what made him change his mind is pressure from within the U.S. By his own industry, what he saw in his own economy. And this is going to be that way too this time, but it will take a bit of time. Mr. Trump has a strange habit of using the stock market as a surrogate of how well he's doing economically. It's not really valid, but this is what he wants and this is what he does. And he probably noticed, I hope, because he keeps sending messages on the web, so he must be looking at websites once in a while. He probably noticed that each time he mentions tariffs, getting closer, the stock market crashes. So I guess this will percolate in him too. He would say, well, I don't want to be regarded as the president that initiated the significant drop in the stock market. So that in itself may be sufficient. But there's a big difference compared to the first era, what we call Trump 1.0 compared to this Trump 2.0. At the time, it was almost a normal trade conversation with normal institutions and interlocutors that we were used to have at the time. Now, it has changed a lot. He has changed personally, obviously, not for the better in my view, but that's for Americans to judge. But his entourage has changed a lot, Now what we have around him is hardline MAGA people, that for them it's almost a religious thing to follow what Mr. Trump says or does. And also the multi-billionaires that are gravitating around him and apparently having a lot of influence on what he does. So that's a very different context than what we had to face back then. But still, we have to talk to governors, we have to talk to citizens, to chambers of commerce. And when they realize what's happening to them, I was reading this morning a farmer from the US saying that this cannot work. It will cost me way too much to be taxed on the potash I import from Canada, for example, for my fertilizer needs. And this, you multiply this by 100, by 1,000, by 1 million, and you get the cumulative impact that at some point should settle the matter. Now, Mr. Trump has to come out of this in a way as a winner. So you have to almost design winning streams for him that will allow him to claim victory, even if it's partial victory. I think psychologically for him, it's important to say that he prevailed and he destroyed everything that was against him. So you have almost to, again, design in advance exit ramps for him to be able to claim some success.
So design...
Because it's not going to be successful. It's not going to be successful. So probably he realizes it now. Mm-hmm. And he must be thinking, how can I come out of this as a big, strong leader and a winner?
Very losing time here, but I have to ask, if Canada does nothing, though, we are dealing with a president who continues to refer to this country as the 51st state, who clearly has his eyes on critical minerals, his eye on energy export, his eye on even fresh water. So if Canada does not take a stand with something like counter-tariffs, does that not just encourage Donald Trump to continue to try to take more and more and more away from this country?
No, you have to react. The way to react to a bully is to act intelligently. So we have to find, as is appearing now, reading what premiers are saying, what the government of Canada is saying, economic actors in Canada are saying, acting on essential goods coming from us, not necessarily through tariffs, just increasing prices or penalties. For example, any U.S. company that wants now to participate in our public markets, bid on project, is going to be penalized roughly around 20-25% regarding where you are. So that's a significant counter-incentive. Same with energy prices. We have to be careful with these, though, because it can also backfire on us. But that's something that could be looked at. And that's the way eventually this whole thing percolates in the I would say, mainstream more than Wall Street. And people say, well, what's happening here? I thought we would come out of this as winners. It's not happening at all. So they would not be happy when they see this. And, until now, the inflation numbers have not been very kind for Mr. Trump. And this is something he dreads because he kept blaming his predecessor for inflation that he said he would solve within a few days.
Mm-hmm. Philippe Couillard, always appreciate the time. Thank you for the insight tonight.
It's a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.